The CDC is set to conduct a large-scale study to examine if there's a link between vaccines and autism.
Vaccines might contribute to autism. There, I said it. The CDC are actually going to do something that they could do, should do. No point in having them if they don't do. They're going to study whether or not there's a link between vaccines and autism. Let me tell you just one way that science is corrupt. You will love this. There's a kind of craze for organic food. This is 20 years ago. We're in the 1990s. That's 30 years ago, is it? Oh my God, I'm so old. Why, Lord, why? It's the 1990s. There's a craze for organic food. The big agriculture industry is in trouble because they know that pesticides are likely detrimental to health in a number of ways. What are we going to do to ensure that our product can compete against organic food? Well, why don't we do a study that shows that organic food and pesticide-enhanced food are no different from one another. The problem is they are different from one another. These people that are selling organic food, they've got a point. Maybe pesticides are causing cancer or heart disease. Maybe no one's funding the trials because no one wants to prove that we shouldn't be making this much money because it's obvious and it makes sense. So what do? They get Stanford University to conduct a study where they compare organic fruit to pesticide fruit. And what do they study? Vitamins. Do they have the same amount of vitamins? Well, yeah. The pesticides don't affect the nutritional value when it comes to vitamins. I mean, they might make the fruit carcinogenic. They might turn a good apple into a bad apple. This apple's broken bad, baby. You got no Snow White stepmother on me. But what they don't do is reduce the vitamins. So they conduct that study, and then a compliant media eagerly reports pesticide fruit and organic fruit no different. Job done. Who's going to fund surveys and science that's detrimental to the agenda of the establishment? Let me know in the comments and chat who's going to do that. Wherever you're watching this, YouTube, X, or wherever, let me know what you think. This content was originally done on Rumble Premium, where we do our best work first. Why don't you consider subscribing to Rumble Premium? You get additional content from me, you get additional content from many of Rumble's great content creators, and you get an ad-free experience, and you get to talk about topics like this. If the CDC suddenly determine that under RFK, who's ultimately the head of the HHS, that they will look into links between vaccines and autism, what are we going to discover? What have you learned from the various COVID inquiries? Do you feel more inclined to trust the pharmaceutical industry and the government and government regulatory agencies, or do you trust them less than ever? Here's some reporting on that bombshell move. First of all, this post. This is from the Mail Online, a British newspaper that, in a sense, are one of the few legacy media contributors that have adjusted to this new space. Probably Mail Online and Piers Morgan are the most notable examples of people adapting to the new media space. The CDC will study the potential link between vaccines and autism, sources have revealed. Two sources told Reuters the agency is planning a large study into the long disproven. No, they're still old school media, aren't they? Because that's why you put in the line, long disproven. It's unclear whether newly appointed Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has long been skeptical, that's bad journalism, isn't it? If you'd used the word long in the previous paragraph, you would say, who has been allied to or has consistently been skeptical of vaccines, is involved in the planned study, or how it would be carried out. Well, of course, we all know that Bobby Kennedy is cynical and skeptical about many pharmaceutical products and the pharmaceutical industry as a whole. And during the pandemic, he became one of the key voices advocating for natural and holistic health. Indeed, this is an aspect of American government that appears to be going in the right direction. Get some exercise. Eat well. Stop smoking, Isaac. These ideas are all prominent, progressive, and important ideas that, along with scientific study into areas where people have doubts, the perfect example being, is there a link between autism and vaccines? Why has autism suddenly shot up Let me know in the comments and chat if you noticed when you had your scheduled jabs that your baby suddenly was not very well or went a funny color or whatever, or if during the pandemic you got one of the shots and like, oh, I'm dizzy the whole time now, or I had a heart attack 6 months later. Surely the only way to put to bed all of these doubts and conspiracies is conducting studies. Even in that short article, you can see that the Daily Mail is framing long disproven, long disproven. They're trying to separate you mentally from the truth with that little piece of language. Let's have a look at how the media is already discrediting that investigation so that you can see the relationship between media and big pharma and how that maps onto and provides the framing of a paradigm that's applicable in all areas of contemporary power. Information, medicine, war, whatever it is, you will find alliances between certain media outlets and certain interests, but if you follow them back, if you can detect their point of origin, you can see where real power lies. Let's have a look.
Officials confirmed this weekend that the CDC is set to conduct a large-scale study to examine if there's a link between vaccines and autism. This is despite hundreds of worldwide clinical trials and studies proving there is no link.
Why would you bother doing any science? Is there a link between eating hot powder and drinking off milk and then diarrhea several days later? Why would you conduct a study about anything? Is there a link between your mouth and my butt?
Including at least 2 previous CDC investigations. The Trump administration still pushing forward.
It's one of the more controversial topics, Hannah. You know, the news comes amid one of the largest measles outbreaks the United States has seen in years.
Remember that measles outbreak? Remember the measles outbreak? That's because of Bobby Kennedy. Hey, Bobby Kennedy, thanks a lot for being cynical about vaccines. Now people are getting measles and dying. So, you know, maybe everyone should just do what the pharmaceutical industry wants, huh? Shouldn't they, maybe? What's the problem with doing a study? Whatever side you're on. You like that? If you truly believe that there is no link between vaccines and autism, aren't you going to be the key, primary, and sovereign beneficiary of these studies? Wouldn't they, as that meme shows? Aren't those studies going to entirely exonerate you? But the studies would exonerate you, right? Right? Bunker has been a great sponsor for the show. They're having tremendous growth, and I want to tell you about them today. High net worth families, law enforcement agents, professional athletes, and tactical response trainers trust Bunker to protect their lives from surveillance, cyber criminals, and other threats. Bunker is an uncompromised private messenger, together with a password manager, secure vault, and notes that work seamlessly together. It offers you private messaging and sharing. Send messages and leverage Bunker sharing capabilities for passwords, documents, notes, photos, and videos. There's also a password manager. Safeguard your online accounts for finance, banking, travel, shopping, and others. Secure Vault. Keep your important documents at your fingertips, such as identification, health records, travel documents, insurance cards, and your most cherished photos and memories. You pervert. Create notes for to-do lists, travel, business, private reflections, recipes, workouts, and health information. In over 130 countries, Bunker customers enjoy peace of mind, travel with greater ease, and have more energy to focus on what matters most. Bunker! Give it a try. Keep yourself safe online like billionaires do down their bunkers. Download Bunker now from the App Store, Play Store, or visit their website bunker.com. Use the offer code BRAND to get 25% off. Live life to the full and protect what matters most. Download Bunker today.
Centered in West Texas as well as New Mexico. But a spokesperson for the Health and Human Services Department saying that the CDC is delivering on the transparency that Americans expect. During his joint address to Congress last week, President Trump touched on the topic of autism and the increase of the number of children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Take a look at that.
Not long ago, and you can't even believe these numbers, 1 in 10,000 children had autism, 1 in 10,000, and now it's 1 in 36. There's something wrong, 1 in 36, think of that. So we're going to find out what it is, and there's nobody better than Bobby and all of the people that are working with you. You have the best to figure out what is going on.
Scientists saying that the increase in autism cases is a result of increased awareness of the disorder and ongoing changes in the way that doctors diagnose it. Claims that autism is linked to vaccines, though, Hannah, have long been disproven by the scientific community.
We heard President Trump mention Bobby. We know he's the newly appointed Health and Human Service Secretary. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has long been a vaccine skeptic. How does this play into this decision?
Yeah, it was one of the cornerstones, really, of his campaign of, who he was and who he was going to be in Congress. But RFK's previous statements regarding vaccines did serve as a major sticking point during his confirmation hearings as well. Take a look at that exchange.
Vaccines do not cause autism. Do you agree with that?
Hunching forward like this is not an indication that I have hemorrhoids. My ass is in tip-top shape. It looks like a little pink lifesaver. Don't you start assuming that my whole demeanor is me tackling the continual discomfort of hemorrhoids. Do you denounce this, Onesie? Denounce it!
As I said, I'm not going to go into HHS with any preordained.
I ask you a simple question, Bobby. The studies all over the world say it does not. What do you think?
Senator, if you show me those studies, I will absolutely, as I promised to Chairman Cassidy, I will apologize.
That is a very troubling response.
I've watched this guy and a dude called Aaron Siri go through those studies and literally point out, see that study, look at the question that they're asking. It's a bit like the organic fruit versus pesticide fruit example that we gave you at the top of this item. I've seen them break it down. Isn't it obvious to you? Isn't it obvious? What's the point in us studying or looking into whether or not vaccines cause it? It's just a bloody waste of time, isn't it? It's political correctness gone mad. Like, if you are a vaccine manufacturer, you want that study. Come on, because we will surely. If the biggest obstacle to people injecting their babies with vaccines is the fact that they love their babies and don't want their babies to be autistic or to have a respiratory condition or some neurological condition, why don't we conduct thorough tests? Well, it's quite difficult to conduct thorough tests because not everyone's queuing up to put their baby into clinical trials for an untested medicine. How do we do that? Well, why don't we just lie and say those things are safe, and then at least we can conduct the trials probably a little more easily and bias the trials. And there are so many ways of biasing the outcomes of a clinical experiment or reporting on a news story. It all depends on what the outcome you want is. If the outcome you want is no link between autism and vaccines, you can do that all day long. If the outcome you want is people scared and in their houses, you can do that all day long. If the outcome you want is we need to funnel public money into private hands, war, pandemic, you do whatever you want. Then you have to just make everyone believe that that's in their interests, because otherwise people will find new ways of forming alliances and opposing that corruption, particularly now with the miracle of modern communication, that we can do it completely outside of centralized institutions. The possibility for revolution is here. The possibility for radical new ways of organizing your life, your mind, consciousness, society itself, and the world have arrived. There is no reason to hold on, to grip on to the old robes of the emperor. It's time to acknowledge he is naked and we are free. We can be free, but first we have to free ourselves here in this present moment and recognize that awakening will mean the ability to acknowledge the divine and the sublime in the present movement and to proceed on that basis, throwing off the past, all of its conflicts, all of its difficulties, all of its liabilities and biases. This we can do, but not individually before we are fallen, but we can do it in his name. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. And if you are in the vaccine game, surely you'd be lining up and doling out to demonstrate that your product did not cause autism, absolutely. Or maybe it's more cost effective just to say, well, that measles outbreak's happening. That's RFK. What happened to that guy JFK, by the way? Shh, don't talk about it. Not yet. Give us another 100 years. Surely this is the fault of RFK. Not that there's a sort of a new unvaccinated migrant community or the vaccines themselves are causing measles or any number of complex things. Remember, when General Motors found they had faulty ignitions, they did a little bit of maths. This was the maths they did. What's it going to cost to recall the vehicles with the faulty ignitions when 1 in 10,000 vehicles, these are arbitrary numbers, will explode into flames, killing, presumably, the occupant of the vehicle? That will cost X amount of money. Okay. And if we don't recall the vehicle and 1 in 10,000 of these products explodes and kills the occupants, what do we estimate it will cost us legally to pay off those people? It will cost Y. Well, if Y is less than X, we go with Y. If X is less than Y, we go with X. No moral principle, just expedience. Guess what? Unfortunately, it was more money to recall the vehicles, so they just let those vehicles explode out there and then did settle with the 1 or 2 people who lost their lives as a result of a vehicle they knew was faulty. I use this somewhat antiquated example to demonstrate a principle, and the principle I'm demonstrating is absolute corruption, and that absolute corruption is still at play. And if you don't believe it is, then maybe we ain't on the same page, baby. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and chat wherever you saw this. Remember, we make our home, we make our bed with Rumble Premium. When there's not a DDoS attack, find us there where we stream 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And to get additional content, sign up for Rumble Premium. You'll get even more of me. You've got all of me already, baby. Sign up to Rumble Premium if you want to, but in the meantime, if you can, please stay free.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.